Hello, everybody. Kamen Rider Player here with.
El Chizza Reviews. Welcome back, all you weekend warriors.
All right, tonight we will be talking about two things. First, our weekly update on Kamen Rider X6. Then we will get into a really interesting Kamen Rider movie called Kamen Rider All Riders versus Die Shocker.
Yes, that's from way back in the day. Thinking about it now,
2009,
uh,
right? No, 10.
yeah,
2010.
I think just about 2010. Yeah,
Yeah.
but let's not start off on that. That's a bigger subject. Let's talk about this week's episode of.
Kamen Rider X8. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, you go ahead and start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this episode of Kamen Rider X8 starts off with or this week's episode starts off where the last episode start where um Kronos used Rage Restart. Rage Restart is when a player gets really angry at the fact that he's losing and at the last resort restarts the game because or unfairly restarts the game because he feels he's been cheated or has the disadvantage. And in this case, our current villain, Kronos, has used a rage restart, setting everything back. And right?
Uh,
If I'm correct,
yeah, because
back.
we open with them trying to figure out how they're going to remake their Gashats.
Mm-hmm. And because they have their gas hats back, they don't have the or XA doesn't have that one thing that gives them the power up.
The
And
Hyper
Nico is
Muteki.
back, yes, and Nico is back to normal, and Taiga is up and well. And at this point, they go back. The next step in their plan is because Parado is still with Emu. That part didn't change. They're trying to get Graphite to join them, while Hero and to kill him.
It's also important to note that Don Musk, the president of another game company, in an attempt to get him to distribute Kamen Rider Chronicle worldwide, but the guy didn't do such a thing. Instead, he wanted a gamer driver to produce Game Corp.
Yes. You think that guy will come in as an importance later, or you think he was there as a joke?
He's absolutely there because of importance later. Because if you watch all the way to the end, he steals the bug visor that Graphite had.
Oh yes, he does. So he has that really silly look to him. You know what I mean? He wears the ropes. He has that fan.
Well,
He strikes
in
me like.
Kamen Rider O's produced Kamen Rider Birth was always, concerned about birthdays
Uh-huh.
and said like every day was someone's birthday, so we should always have cake on hand.
Uh-huh.
So he's weird too.
Yeah, that's true. I, I
I don't. I think it's too early to assume what side this character is going to be on. But it is important to note that he did get the bug visor because, as we all know, that functions as a gamer driver too.
yes, it does. But to further go on from this, Graphite, Hero, and Taiga, after no, I skipped a part. Graphite is confronted by Parado and Poppy, who try to persuade him to join forces, but he says he's chosen his path, and they said we're still friends regardless. And he goes off to face Hero and Taiga. And during the fight, Kronos intervenes, prevent Graphite was about to die, accepting his fate. And Graphite gets pissed at Kronos because he interfered the battle, and
and uses the Game Deuce virus to break the lock of paws
Yeah.
so that he could take his licks like a man. Like a
Mhm.
man!
Yes. Japan. I'd say America, but it's not America. So Japan. And what he does is he basically thanks Taiga and Hiro for not holding back and treating him like the character he's meant to be treated as, the villain.
Yeah, he's the main villain from Dragon Knight Hunter Z.
Yes. And he tells Poppy and Prado they were really good friends, and then he does a suicide. He pretty much does a suicide run while trying to take out Kronos with him.
And then, of course, the episode ends not only on the president of the other game company getting the bug visor, but also we see Game Deuce come to be.
Yes, the big boss. Is Game Deuce the villain that's going to be in the final movie or whatever?
No, the villain in the final movie is going to be another Kamen Rider.
Okay, good. So we will see Game Deuce defeated by the end of the episode, and we won't have to wait a year to see the movie subbed. Good.
Well, by the end of the episode is actually kind of, I would say, not a safe bet. I would say Game Deuce is going to stick around till the end of the season.
I mean, by the last episode of the season.
Very fair.
Like the ending will end there that we want before it leads in the build. We won't have to wait to see the movie to see how it ends. You know what I mean?
Yep. Can I just talk about real quick much they stress like how much work can get to you in this episode? Because Dan Kuroto actually loses lives burning the midnight oil to try to reprogram their lost gashets.
I loved that. That scene was so well filmed. It was so beautifully cartoonishly filmed. I mean, and he was burned.
Who hasn't stayed up all night on a project and nearly killed themselves?
I did. I'm a college student. I know the pain of that. I love how that was perfectly executed. It was funny. It was relatable and hilarious, and it was just well filmed.
Absolutely.
That also brings up another thing, that just all the scenes with Dan. If you ever notice, all the scenes with Dan, you see him like room, kind of like moving in a really fast paced type thing. That film style they use in, I noticed they use in film and Toku a whole lot to really express a silly character.
Accentuate.
Yeah.
Accentuate the goofiness of the situation, or
Yes. Like, for example, remember in the first episode where we first meet Hiro's dad when he's in serious mode, and then the patient comes, he goes, and that light bulb sound effect opens up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were doing that, but remember in like the first bit, he was always like that. He was just like, boing.
Yeah, I think
The common
certain things trope that we're used to. Go ahead.
I noticed that's a common humor trope in Japanese drama.
Very fair assessment. Mm-hmm. And that's actually another thing I wanted to point out about this season, and a couple seasons ago, is that you tend to notice like things you think are going to be gimmicks from the very first episode tend to just kind of get forgotten as the show goes on. And then they just kind of drop it on you in the last episode, and I'm sitting here going, that gimmick had to have stuck around a little bit further before you get any kind of emotion out of me from that.
Mm-hmm. Which gimmick are you referring to specifically?
Okay, so Emu is no longer bumping into shit.
Oh, yeah.
Injuring himself.
Uh-huh.
I guarantee you, on the last episode, it's going to end with him trying to walk off into the distance like a boss, and he's going to trip on something and slam his knee or his elbow or his shoulder extremity into a wall or a corner or something very hard, and he's going to fall to the ground and it's in pain.
Oh, are we? Is this kind of like the gimmick where like Drive was a lazy goof off, and then as the season progressed, he just got into top gear more and more until the end.
Yeah, it became less of an impactful thing.
Yeah. And I don't think did Decade have any of that though. I'm trying to think of all the writers who had something like that. Did Decade ever have a gimmick that just didn't show off the rest of the season?
Not that I can think of, but Decade wasn't that of much of an in-depth show.
No, it wasn't. It was more of a here's an episode. We're gonna go to this world. We're gonna go to this world. We'll talk more about that in the movie review in a little bit though.
Yep. Actually, I think this is a good segue.
Okay.
So, don't spoil the ending for our viewers, but give a brief synopsis as to, like, lead us up to why we're watching it. What is the main attraction here?
Um, for me, the main attraction is I love Decade. Decade was one of my favorite Kamen Rider seasons, and I think this movie really explains a lot about Tsukasa that the show doesn't. Like the show has kept you in question about the character from beginning to end.
Before we get into opinions, like this, what I mean by synopsis is like shortest version of the story you can, but cut out anything from the climax to the ending.
Oh, okay. All right. So the the basic premise of All Riders versus Die Shocker is it takes place. I think after no, not after Decade, taking Decade, but the premise
In
is
between
that
Decade and Double, yeah.
in between Decade and Double, sometime in between that. Uh, but the premise is that Tsukasa, um, the other names passed me, Kuga's name and the other girl's name. Do you remember?
No.
Okay, Kuga, Tsukasa, and Tsukasa's companion. Pretty much the three trio, kind of like you see in Doctor Who. I'm sorry, Decade's kind of like Doctor Who to me.
It really is.
But Decade, then we start off with a big battle between Decade and Amazon, and then after their fight, Amazon biting on him and all that, he turns into Hickabee. Then they do a kick, and the logo Kamen Rider Decade All Riders versus Die Shocker. Then it cuts into the house that we're all that they're familiar with, the photo studio is currently, and they come out of it and they find out that they are in Tsukasa's world, like the actual world they've been searching for. And Tsukasa and them find a photograph of a house. He for some reason remembers that house, so he goes off that house, finds out. Can I reveal the part about how Die Shocker comes to happen in there? Because that's kind of part of the beginning.
Don't sweat the small details. Just
Okay. Basically, he finds his old house, his childhood house that he left a year ago. Comes across his sister, doesn't remember anything still. Then, after a mysterious man who comes by, he gets memories of him and his sister and all that. Then, memories, slight glimpses of him being the leader of Shocker. They have a host a rider tournament where he basically has to see who the best rider is, defeats them all except for Kuga, and then a big tower emerges, it being the Die Shocker lair, rused by Tsukasa to riders, and then they find his sister, ask her, and finds out that she was a member of Dai Chakra also and hates Tsukasa because he was a self-righteous cunt, pretty much, from the beginning. Sounds about right, right? Tsukasa was still a self-centered jerk as a kid, according to his sister, and would always all stayed inside. And from there on, he learns the errors of his ways after he's betrayed by his sister and the other members of Shocker. He meets Gact as Rider Man. You guys don't know who Gact is. Gact is a Japanese superstar, rock star.
J-Rock kind of guy. Swear to God, if you haven't listened to any of his stuff, open a new tab, go to Spotify, something, just look him up. That's Gackt. Listen to it. You're going to love it.
Mm-hmm. He's also has so many legends written about him being like a vampire or something like that. He's been a human cyborg, and apparently just various legends about. Just look him up. Anyways, in this movie, he plays Rider Man, who in this universe was a former member of Dai Shocker, chopped off for experimenting and wants revenge on them for it. So he tries to kill Tsukasa, but then Tsukasa says, "Kill me, I don't care. I'm nothing now. I've changed." And he's like, "You are not worthy of me killing you anymore in this state." So he pretty much backs him up and lets him go while he fights off Shocker while Tsukasa leaves, gets back with his group. They fight, and from there on, you'll have to watch.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer than a synopsis, but it'll work. So, but you actually covered a lot of what we need to cover anyway. So, to make this next stuff make sense, so let's talk about characters real quick.
Yes.
Character developments, the way characters have interacted.
I'll let you go first on that. I'd like to hear your opinions.
Really, Tsukasa's relationship with the other characters evolved any from his main continuity. Although this is part of the main continuity, this is the tying up everything up. More or less, he stagnated. There was no any growth between characters. I felt was artificial, like it was shoehorned in right there at the end.
Yeah, my opinions on Tsukasa, it's weird. I like the series. I love Decade, but I also hate it. You know what I mean? Like, simple to get, even though it's complicated and mind fuck. You know what I mean? It's a weird paradox of me even talking about it, but his character is very dull. I think I don't really sympathize for him because he's a jerk. But I guess it's the first time I've ever seen a rider who's just a jerk who's out for himself, you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting to watch, you know what I mean?
I felt the end was like the more entertaining rider of the two.
Oh, yes, definitely. D-End actually had a goal in it. He was a treasure hunter. Tsukasa, he was on a
wanted
journey,
to take pretty pictures.
I'll put it like what Honest Toku Trailers puts it. Tsukasa is your average everyday Instagram girl who thinks she takes really good photos, but we all know she just uses filters.
Yeah.
That is Tsukasa in a nutshell. Nothing special. And he's a jerk.
Exactly. So there really wasn't much growth here to be found, I feel. Let's talk about our opinions on the story.
Well, in terms of the story, for me, I think the best I've seen out of Decade, minus Decade's Ending. I thought Decade's Ending was a slightly better, but I think it was slightly better. My only thing I still have questions about is if Decade is the leader of Die Shocker, what is his connection to Shocker? Because Ambassador Hell is there, and a lot of the original members of Shocker from 1971 are there. So how is he connected?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Ichigo. I mean, apparently, the one girl's grandfather is Dr. Shinigami. That doesn't make sense either. They never explain it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And is it? We've seen in Drive, Dr. Shinigami is a computer AI. He's the grandfather of that one girl who's a Decade companion. Is this why we say the movies are uncanon, I guess?
It's kind of why, yeah.
You could just say this is alternate universe, I guess, too. Because I don't remember Queen Bee ever being a member of Shocker. Different was Decade Double, but this sort of still applies to All Riders versus Die Shocker because it was kind of a sequel to this. But remember Queen Bee, right? She's the girl with the sword who killed Tackle and Stronger.
Yeah.
How is she affiliated with Shocker? Because I don't remember Shocker being in Stronger. I haven't watched Stronger, but I've read about thinking, if I remember correctly, it was a different organization.
Yeah, but Die Shocker was the whole idea was they were bringing other organizations together.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because we saw the villain, we saw a Moon Knight in there, we saw Black villain Lord Draken. Sorry, I only know him by the Masked Rider name. If you know the name, the Japanese name for him, please tell me. But
yeah, Shadow Moon was there.
The Tiger from Destron was there too. From V3.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much all of the memorable villains throughout the Showa era were there for precisely the purpose of them bringing all these organizations together.
Yeah. Okay. Can you do it for me? I need to go for a bit. Can you do it without me? I'm being called in.
Yeah, hurry back.
Yeah, I'll try to. If not, I'm sorry.
My opinion on the story was, well, I have to admit, it was the one piece of Kamen Rider Decade related media that I disliked, that I actually kind of enjoyed. But considering that it's attached to Decade, that enjoyment was not large. It was very much just more of the same, but a lot of it at once. Like it was trying to fix the blandness of it by grouping it all together. And it worked, kinda. Obviously, this was the movie where Kamen Rider Double was introduced. Decade uses a final attack ride that we never see again. We only see a version of the Joker form for Kamen Rider Double as Kamen Rider Joker, and he's just using one memory and a lost driver. As far as Great Big Battles go, it was kind of directed about the same as every other giant tokusatsu battle there's ever been. A lot of fighting is going on at once, and the camera just kind of pans back and forth. It's not bad. I don't think there would be a better way to film it, considering you don't have a lot of hard to recognize faces or helmets in tokusatsu. So it would be hard to keep the attention focused on just the shot that you want. Um, I felt the like. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I didn't care for it. I felt it was anticlimactic. We all saw it coming. That's just me, though. I do like that it introduced Kamen Rider Double. It's kind of what made this season the beginning of the Neo Heisei era. So as much as I hate Kamen Rider Decade, I do have to give it that. It was how the Neo Heisei era got started. We're all the way up to just the 10th season of the Neo Heisei era is coming up. We may have to jump into another new era after this. Uh, I don't think. Now, the reason I don't watch these movies too terrible much is because when all the riders start showing up, in order to appeal to the widest group of people, it's a big question of how many different riders can we get into one shot at once, to hold everyone's attention. And part of that felt lazy to me. It didn't focus on any of the riders long enough to really refresh us on what their characters were like. We were just expected to know. Uh, I don't know how else to put it. It was disappointing. I felt that the Cho Deno trilogy was much more entertaining and was a better use of decade.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I was being informed about a project I'm doing tomorrow. Hello? 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 Chaz? All right, so today, or sorry guys about technical difficulties. El Chizo is still taking care of that. Well, while we're talking about that, I'll talk about some other tokus I'm currently watching or into. Other than Kamen Rider X-Aid, current Sentai I've recently finished is Kaizuku Sentai Gokaija. Gokaija, you know, as Power Rangers Super Mega Force. In Japan, Kaizuku Sentai Gokaija is about pirate-based Sentai who are from space and they find the powers of Ranger keys, right? And so I'm at camp, right? And I'm at summer camp, and we will be back on regular. I'm sure El Chizo has already explained it. I'm working on Kamen Rider, which is a the story is still in early stage development, right? But I promise you it'll be entertaining. I already had an intro and all that. Just already made. El Chizo's helped me make the suit. He's major help. But yeah, everything's going well. Share in the comments below. I'm about to check it out. Come on, load.